Okay, the purpose of this video is to teach you how to start to search for information for your final project for the things they carried. This is the same information that you received in class on Friday, but if you weren't here, you can watch it to catch up, or if you forgot something, you can come back and look at it. All right, so when we start looking for images that we can use, the place that a lot of you are going to go is to Google, which is completely fine. If you go to Google, right, you could type in something like Vietnam War civilian casualties, click on images, and it'll bring you to a ton of them. Now, one of the issues with using these photographs is that you need big pictures, right? Because if it's a small picture and you expand it in your video, it's going to become pixelated and difficult to see. So one way to make sure that you are using pictures that are the appropriate size is to click Search Tools, go to Size, and limit it to only large pictures, right? So these, when you expand them on your video, are going to look appropriate. So what you're going to do is pretend you see one that you like. You're going to click on it. Now you can't just click it and drag it onto your desktop because this is the thumbnail, and you need the actual photograph. So you have to follow it to where it exists. So I'm going to go to this page, and then over here it says View Image. I'm going to click on View Image. Here's the actual photograph. So now what I can do, two things. I can click Control and click, and it'll ask where I want to save the image. So I can do Save Image As, right? I'm going to put it on my desktop, and I'm going to call it picture number 1. I suggest that you do the same thing, just maybe number the pictures. So I'm going to save it. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the URL because I have to cite the picture. This doesn't belong to me. It's not mine, so I have to say where I got it from. What I'm going to do then is I created a document for my project, and I just called it Media for TTC Final Project. So I'm just going to write picture 1, and then there's the link for it. Okay, on my desktop, I'm just going to create a folder. I'm going to throw all the pictures into those folders. All right, so if you use pictures from Google, the only thing to kind of keep in mind is that these are intended for you to use as they are. You're not supposed to edit them. That's not the purpose of these pictures. Okay, next piece. So then what Mr. Taylor has done for us is I've shared a document with you called Makovic Resources Page. What he did is he went through and he found a bunch of really great websites to help you get started. So if you look at the first one, the high quality digital photos, so these are pictures that are already a large enough size that they will work in your videos. And these are open resources. So you can edit them. They're intended for that purpose, to be used in educational settings. And for some of them, at least for the first site, you don't have to cite this one. So no attribution necessary means you do not have to cite any of these photographs in the morgue file. For the other ones, you do need to include the URL. So one of the ones that's cool is if you look at the tag galaxy. So what you do is you just sort of enter an initial search term. So I'm just going to put Vietnam War, click Go. And then it sort of creates this galaxy, right, with other things that are connected to the Vietnam War. So pretend I'm looking for one of my different perspectives and I want something from the actual place, Vietnam. So I'm going to click on Saigon. And what it's going to do is give me sort of other things then that are connected to Saigon. I'm going to click Vietnam War plus Saigon, because that's what I'm looking for. And there are 2,745 photos. So then it sort of creates this planet that has a bunch of images that are connected to that topic. These are things that it found. So for instance, if I want to click on this one, you can click and it'll pop up. So if you kind of click and drag with the mouse, it'll spin it for you. So here's another one. If I come over here, right, there's the image, right? So I guess he's a Vietnamese soldier. You would go to the Flickr page. Remember, because you have to follow the picture to its source to use it. And so then down here in the corner, this is the share. So what you can do is there's the link to the photo, right? So if I wanted to use this one, I would copy and paste it. I would go back to my site. I would put picture 2. And if you wanted to say, you know, like picture of Vietnamese boy, you could do that too. Let me find back to where I was. Right? And then you could share the link to the photo, right? So I could share the link, the HTML. It does say all rights are reserved, so I would need to cite the URL in this particular case, but that's how you would do that, right? You want to send an email, right? You could do that. You'd have to sign in. Okay, going back to our resources page. So those are the digital photos. Feel free to look around in there. In terms of the soundtrack, so one thing you do need to know is that it is not legal to download music from YouTube. YouTube legally owns the music that is posted there, and so you can't take it really from that site without citing it. But these websites, all 4 of these, contain music that you can use for free, and some of it you don't even have to cite. I know for the Mobi, you don't have to cite it. If you do need to cite it, the 2 pieces you need are the site artist and you need to include the label. This one down here, the op sound, is kind of a cool link. It actually gives you background noises or special effects, so that's kind of a cool one to check out. All right, the third thing that Mr. Taylor has provided us with is video footage. So these are pieces of different videos that you could potentially use, sites that'll search video that exists. He didn't search exactly for Vietnam, but he assumes there will be things in there that you could potentially use, so feel free to look through that one. Again, you would copy, paste it into your document. The next thing, so once you sort of have a bunch of stuff, the next thing you have to do is start to think about how you're going to build your video. There is someone who teaches sort of this type of media literacy, and he argues, I think Jim Sills is his name, that there are essentially 4 shots that you need in a video to tell a story. The first one is an establishing shot. So that is just basically a picture of whatever the subject is. Then you need a long shot, right? So that's just sort of from farther away to kind of give you more of a perspective of the area. It shows you where the story is taking place. A medium shot then draws focus to whoever the specific person is that's going to play a role in the story that you're going to tell, and a close-up does that even more, right? So it really zooms in on that protagonist. So one thing Mr. Taylor said is that you can think about, if you have to include 5 perspectives, maybe for each of those 5 perspectives, you have one of each of these shots or a couple of each of these shots that follow that progression. He said it would be a nice structure. Next, storyboarding. So each group is responsible for creating a storyboard. A storyboard is basically an outline of what your video is going to look like, but drawn in pictures. So you are more than welcome to just do that on a piece of paper. Another way to do that would be to create a Google presentation, and then on each slide, just kind of write down or show me what's going to go on that, right in that block. Or he also found this website for us called Storyboard That, and you would kind of have to play around with this. So if you're techie, this might be a good option for you. You would do a free trial, right, and create it for education so that you could save it. Otherwise, I don't think you'll be able to save it. And then it gives you some boxes, right? You can add cells, you can move cells, you can clear things, you can add textables, which would be words, right? You can kind of move it down here. You can add shapes, you can add scenes, right? And kind of mess around with it however you want it to work. But that's another option for your storyboard. Storyboards are going to be due on Wednesday. So once your group starts to find some things, you do need to think about how you're going to tell your story. All right, and last but not least, we're going to be in the production lab starting Wednesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week are the 3 days that you will have to actually create the movie. So once we're in the lab, these are 2 resources to kind of help you if you're not familiar with iMovie. So for instance, you want to add some audio. Here's a little video on working with audio. It'll teach you the basics. And there are tons of them, so you can kind of sift through and decide what it is that you need to learn. Your group can divide up the work so that that's all being done. I think that's everything. Good luck searching on Monday. I'll see you guys on Tuesday.